أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم واتقوا فتنة لا تصيبن الذين ظلموا منكم خاصة واعلموا أن الله شديد العقاب واذكروا إذ أنتم قليل مستضعفون في الأرض تخافون أن يتخطفكم الناس فآواكم وأيدكم بنصره ورزقكم من الطيبات لعلكم تشكرون صدق الله العظيم. Continuing with what the Muslim community ought to do for its reformation, for its salah, its righteousness, its development, its goodness, its khair in this dunya, in the akhirah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran al-Kareem over here in verse 25 of Surah Al-Anfal states that guard yourselves against a certain suffering. وَاتَّقُوا فِتْنَةً. Ittiqa from taqwa. Taqwa means when someone protects himself. Literally. Ittiqa means to protect oneself. Because of taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protects one from the ghadab and the wrath of Allah, the adab of Allah, the punishment of Allah. There's a certain fear of Jahannam, etc. Hence the connection between the two. So وَاتَّقُوا فِتْنَةً. What's this fitna here? Looking at the various tafsir and statements of the ulama of tafsir and mufassirin, what's highlighted is that when the Muslim community is faced with an issue, something which is detrimental to their deen and their development as a community in this dunya as well, if at that time the community is not vigilant and it does not take its responsibilities seriously, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the nizam of Allah, the system of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is such that certain difficulties will come upon the community, even upon those that may not be directly involved. So this can be applied in various ways. One example, ulama al-tafsir give, Amr bin Ma'ruf Nahi anil Munkar. When you're supposed to be enjoining righteous deeds, good things, etc., and you don't do that, you reject that, you don't care about that, you're not worried about that, the community doesn't involve itself in that, then one is the adab and the punishment and the evil effects upon those that are the evildoers, that's in its place. But even those that didn't care about it, they were nonchalant about it, they were irresponsible, they did not fulfill their task of ma'ruf nahi munkar, then even they'll be affected to some degree. This doesn't mean to say that they are taking part in someone else's sin. The rule in Allah is لا تزر وازرة وزر أخرى. No one shoulders anyone else's burden. But because your own responsibility, your own fard, your separate obligation is that you should also care about it. Another example I give is that of jihad. That if where the call of jihad is made by the Imam al-Muslimin, where that's the case, and they ought to defend themselves against the onslaught, against those that cause havoc, etc. If at that moment the community is careless about it, nonchalant about it, then the evil effect of this will come on the community as well, even in the dunya. So what's going to happen? That you'll be under the rule of such wrathful people. They will not treat your women and children correctly. So that the punishment of that or the evil effect of that will be in the dunya as well. So like that in any other way. So if this community, for example, us in our community, we say that the importance of us establishing ourselves, let's say, for example, educationally, that we don't, that it's a communal problem. What is taught in schools, etc., that's not something that we stand for. So if we as a community don't take that into consideration, then and we are very kind of nonchalant about it, or we don't take active steps towards reforming that one way or the other, or curbing that one way or the other, then what's going to happen? The problem is only going to come on us. We will find the evil of that both in the dunya and in the akhirah. Our children will be affected by it. That will affect their dunya, will affect their akhirah, everything. Okay. Each example that you take, that whatever the Muslim community needs, if we don't fulfill that, when the time is there, right, at that time you don't put in your 110% to that, and you don't answer that call and fulfill your obligation, then we will feel the blunt of that in either the dunya or akhirah or both. لا تصيبن الذين ظلموا منكم خاصة. It won't affect only those that were the oppressors. It will be everyone. Everyone will be affected by it. وَاعْلَمُوا أَنَّ اللَّهَ شَدِيدُ الْعِقَابِ وَاذْكُرُوا إِذَا أَنْتُمْ قَلِيلٌ مُسْتَضْعَفُونَ. Now the Quran Kareem makes this connection as well, that fulfilling one's obligation in tasajjud, because the addressees number one are the Sahaba. So in Makkah Mukarram, when the call was made, they answered. Badr, and after Medina, various times call was made, they answered, mashallah. So the Quran Kareem is reminding them, وَاذْكُرُوا قَلِيلٌ مُسْتَضْعَفُونَ. Remember when you were very few in number. مُسْتَضْعَفُونَ. You were very weak in Makkah Mukarramah. Such weakness and apparent weakness, تَخَافُونَ يَتَخَطَّفَكُمُ النَّاسِ. You are fearing as if the people would pluck you. Just as a bird, a hawk, a predatory bird comes and plucks its prey. Like that, that was a kind of fear. Such very little. Imagine day one, Nabi ﷺ gives da'wah. Khadija anha accepts his da'wah. Ali anhu accepts his da'wah. Zayd ibn Haritha. 4 people at that time. 3 people with the Nabi ﷺ. Next day, Abu Bakr, okay, one more person. Abu Bakr anhu goes, gives da'wah. So now you have the rest of the Ashram Bashar except for 2. You have Abdurrahman bin Awf, Uthman, Talha bin Zubayr, Sa'd bin Waqqas. They all accept the Nabi Sallallahu da'wah. I mean, there was a time when there were 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 people who were only Islam. And what their call was and what they were believing, at the time, there was no da'wah, open da'wah at the time. There was iman there. But obviously word spreads. People came to know about that. That's why they were oppressed as well. Whatever they were believing was the exact opposite of what the community was calling towards. So that was the apparent da'af and weakness that was there. But because the Sahaba anhum, they fulfilled their obligation at that time. When they were told to keep their iman quiet and keep it private, then they did so, but they had istiqamah and steadfastness. When they were told to give da'wah, they started giving da'wah. Whatever they were told to do, whatever responsibility came upon them as a community, whether it was to go to perform hijrah towards Habasha, otherwise, whatever that was to be done, ought to be done, they fulfilled that. Even if they were very few, even if they had this political weakness, they weren't strong politically, they weren't strong militarily at the time. But because they fulfilled that, then you see in a very short time, relatively in a very short time, they come back as Fatih Makkah, conquest of Makkah, the opening of Makkah. فَآوَاكُمْ, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave you a place of security that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave. Medina Munawwara, they enjoyed security over there. وَيَدَكُمْ بِنَصْرِهِ, He assisted you with His nusrah, His assistance. And on top of that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave you wholesome things and provided that for you in various forms. لَعَلَّكُمْ تَشْكُرُونَ, all of that is that so you show shukr. They passed the test of sabr in Makkah Mukarramah. Also in the beginning in Medina Munawwara, there's still sabr, much sabr going on. Then came shukr. So everyone has to go through that. You go through sabr, you go through shukr. These are various tests from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. لَعَلَّكُمْ تَشْكُرُونَ. At the end, they also passed the test of shukr. Even when they had things and they still fulfilled their responsibility of Amr bil Ma'ruf, Jihad fi Sabilillah, etc. Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam is there in their midst, but they leave Medina Munawwara and they still do the work of deen. We make dua that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us understanding.